This is Nigel here, and you're listening to SportsOvertime.com.
You're listening to Off the Deep End, where we discuss conspiracies, the people who love them, aliens, and a little spirituality. I'm your host, Emmy, and welcome to our show. Welcome to Off the Deep End. This is Emmy once again, and welcome to another installment. We are here with Neil333. He's from New Zealand. He's a channeler, intuitive healer. He also does past life regressions. You can find Neil on his YouTube channel, Neil333, where he publishes many beneficial videos, as well as on his website, Neil333.com, where you can find a complete list of his services, as well as his mission statement, which is to help uplift humanity to a higher vibration. Welcome, Neil.
Hello, how are you?
We're great. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, so thank you very much.
Yes, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Neil, just for our viewers listening, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so as you know, my name's Neil. I went through my spiritual awakening. Like, most people know me because I'm involved in a lot of sort of spiritual things. So I went through my spiritual awakening. I woke up. It was at the end of 2013. So from after that point, I've been on quite a accelerated path, you could say. It's been moving very, very fast for me since that point. Everything started going really fast, and there's been a lot of things that I started opening up to, and I started becoming more interested, and I started researching, and I got to a stage where I was starting to develop my abilities. So before that, I was, in my life, I've always sort of had some tendencies towards spirituality, but I wouldn't have classed myself as being like a spiritual person or a psychic or whatever you want to call it, but I never ever thought of myself like that. I'd had some strange experiences during my life, but nothing that's really nothing like really outrageous or anything like that actually happened to me. There's a few things that happened when I was younger, but nothing that was like very, nothing too intense or anything like that, or like phenomenal. So basically what happened was, when I got to the way that I ended up waking up was I started becoming interested in the pyramids. It's not that I'd never looked at the pyramids before. I'd looked at them before, but there comes a stage in everybody's life where they're ready to start learning new things. They're ready to leave all the stuff that the stage that they've been in before, where they've been in a stage of, how can I put it? They've been putting themselves into limitations where they're not opening up to a lot of the things like the aliens and things like this and spirituality and stuff like this. By putting yourself into a limitation like that, there's a lot of lessons that you have to learn with that. And there comes a stage for everybody when they're finished learning those lessons, and it's time for them to start learning new lessons. And that's what happened to me at the end of 2013. So I started becoming interested in the pyramids. And who I started becoming interested in was, there's a guy called Christopher Dunn, his name is. You look him up. He's incredible, the stuff that he's got, a few books as well. But Christopher Dunn is like he's a stonemason, and he had been a stonemason all his life. He had run quite a few different companies as well, and so he knew a lot about engineering stone. This is his expertise, and he started looking into the pyramids, and not just the pyramids, but a lot of the things that the Egyptians did. A lot of it's not just the pyramids and the temples. He was also looking at a lot of the stones that would be around the pyramids and things like this as well. And he would look at the way that certain stones had been cut. And there's certain things that he has on YouTube that I was watching, certain certain recordings where he's actually looking at certain stones, and he's explaining what sort of tools that you would use to cut it, and why they're in certain shapes. Some of the shapes are like that. Some of the stones have got certain shapes to them to allow certain tools, so the tools can access, so they can get in and they can cut right along it. And he's looking at it from a technical point of view, and he's even measuring them. He's measuring how flat they are and things like this. And there's some things that are just impossible. It's impossible for you to actually create these things. I mean, he even did it where there's these sarcophagus that are in a certain temple, and they used to put these bulls into these big sarcophagus. And there's something like 22 of them. It's close to this temple is close to Saqqara, where the step pyramid is at Saqqara. There's a temple very close to that. I can't remember the name of the temple, but this is where all these sarcophagus is. And he measured them. He measured how flat they were. He took all the dimensions of them. And what he basically did was he wrote to, I think there was 3 of the top engineering companies in the world, that are the top stone engineering companies in the world, and he asked them if they could manufacture one of these boxes, one of these stone structures. And 2 of them said that they couldn't do it. They said it was impossible. And the third one says that they would take the contract, but they said that they can't guarantee that they could make that, because there's no machines in the world that can actually make something to that precision. They would have to get a machine built specifically to create these sarcophagus. So that to me was like, that was the beginning of it for me. So that's what really got the ball rolling for me. So what happened from there was I ended up getting a job in Egypt just shortly after that, a few weeks after starting to look into Christopher Dunn's stuff. I ended up getting a job in Egypt. And I mean, that's to people that'll sound like that's coincidence, but that's not really the way it works. You're creating your entire reality, so you create it from your higher self. I'll talk about this later, but basically you create your entire reality. It's like a virtual reality. So this was my way of waking up. This was my way of putting myself through it. So I would look at the thing. There was a higher part of me that knew that I would look at I would start looking into Egypt, and it allowed me to get a job in Egypt. So, like I say, I got a contract for a job in Egypt. I went to work in Egypt, and I got some free time there where I could actually go to the pyramids and have a look at them, and that was pretty incredible. Just to do that was really incredible. And I had a job at the time where I was working. I was working offshore. Now, I'll give a brief explanation of what it is that I do offshore, because this it may tie into some things that I might talk about later. So what I was working on as when I was offshore was, I used to be an ROV pilot, and what ROVs are, these are vehicles. They basically take these vehicles, they're small vehicles, they're unmanned, they're totally operated remotely. So these vehicles, they'll take these vehicles and they'll basically put them into the water. These vehicles have an umbilical cable that comes off them all the way up to the boat, and these vehicles have propellers on them, they have cameras on them, they also have like arms on them, which are called manipulators, and they basically fly through the water. And you sit in a control room on the boat, and you've basically got a joystick basically, and a monitor, and you're basically flying this vehicle through the water.
That's pretty
cool. You use it for a lot of different things. So that is the job that I was doing offshore. So I got some free time to actually go onshore as well, and I got to go and see the pyramids. So that was really incredible for me to get to do that. When I was on the boat, that was the first time that I ever started. That was the first time I ever meditated, was on that boat. And it was all well played out as well, because usually I'd share a room with somebody, and on that job I didn't share a room with anybody. I had a room to myself. And that allowed me to do meditation. I had a lot of free time, so I started doing meditation. The reason I started doing meditation is because there's a guy called Douglas James Cottrell. Now, Douglas James Cottrell, I started getting interested in his stuff. And Douglas James Cottrell, what he does is he does a type of meditation which is called deep trance meditation. So he basically lies down and he goes into a very, very deep state of meditation. He can't remember what happens when he goes into this. He basically goes into trance, and he accesses what is known as the Akashic records. So So I'll give a brief explanation of what the Akashic records are. So the Akashic records are this idea that there's a place, an etheric place, where all information is stored. Or there's just it's like a lot of people say when they go there in the astral, they'll see it like a library. And that's the way that he talks about it. He says he sees it like a library, and there's like an old man in the library, and whatever information he wants, this old man will go and get a book, and he'll bring it and he'll present this book to him, and he'll open the book and he'll just start reading off the book. So I started getting interested in his stuff as well, because he does a lot of stuff about Egypt. He talks a lot of, he accesses a lot of information about Egypt and about the pyramids and the temples there and things like this. So I started getting interested in his stuff. And he talks a lot as well about meditation. So I started getting interested in meditation, and I mean, you got to understand, before this I was like completely asleep. Like I was completely asleep. I had some feelings about spirituality, like and I had some beliefs in like maybe reincarnation and some psychic abilities and things like that. But I wasn't. I was pretty much asleep, like. So anyway, so I started doing the meditation, and I can remember watching some of Douglas Cottrell's stuff, and I'd always been interested. This is one thing that I've always been interested in my whole life. I've always been interested in humanity as like as a species, humanity as a whole. I've always looked at humanity as a whole, and how can humanity change to get better and things like this. I've always sort of been like interested in all my life, interested in this. But I'd always looked at it from like I'd always looked at politics. Now, I wasn't hugely into politics, but I'd followed politics a bit. So I remember being on that boat, and I remember Douglas James Cottrell. I remember watching one of his videos, and I'm talking about love, how love was the ultimate power, and love was the one thing that would solve all problems, is love. And I can remember that very clearly. I remember going out. I remember that concept of that. And I remember walking outside on the boat and going and standing outside on the boat on my own. And I can remember just thinking, like, it was such a foreign concept to me.
I was just going to ask you what your reaction was at that point.
Yeah, it was just such a, it was so I'd never ever heard of that concept before. Like, I'd never heard of the concept of like, but if you use love, how love will change, will create. It sounds obvious, but love will it will solve all problems, because love is pure positivity. And if you want to change things from negative into positive, you have to use love to do that. I never thought about it that way before, ever. I'd never contemplated that before, ever. And that was a big thing. That was quite a big thing for me. And and the meditation that I was doing at that time as well, the meditation that I'd done, it was just a really simple meditation, and I still do this now. It's interesting, because even then, like what I did the very first time I meditated, I still use it now. I still use that technique, and it's a very, very simple technique. Anybody can do this. It's very simple. It's very easy. It's very, very effective though. And all you do is this: you just sit down. Now, you don't have to sit down cross-legged. You can if you want to. You can sit cross-legged if you want to, but you don't have to. You can sit upright in a seat if you want. You can even do this standing up if you really want to. It doesn't matter so much about the position you're in. All you do is you just imagine the top of your head is opening up, and you imagine there's just a light is just pouring in through the top of your head, and it's pouring into your chest. And that's all you do. You just allow this beautiful light just to pour into you, and allow it to fill you up. And when I did this, when I was doing this on the boat, I was noticing, like, God, this feels really good when you do this. It actually makes you feel really good, and I was quite surprised by that. I mean, I'd went through earlier on in my life. I'd been through like periods of, like, over years and years. I'd been a drug user, and I'd been big into partying and things like that. Now, when I was doing all that stuff, I would never ever have believed that you could just have an energy come within you. I never believed that you could feel the feelings that you get from taking drugs without taking drugs. But that's why it was quite a surprise for me that by just doing this meditation, I was feeling like this energy coming into me, and it felt really good as well. So that's how it sort of started off. Now, what happened from there on, that was like, and I never really turned back since then. Since then, I woke up and that was it. I've never really turned back. So I started, and this happens with a lot of people when they first waking up. What happens is you just get so hungry for information. You just become like, that's all you want to do. You just want information, and that's what I was like. I was just so hungry for information, and I was reading a lot of stuff. It was interesting the way it happened, because I would find out about a book I wanted to read, and I would read this book, and I would get all the understandings from this book. Now, this wasn't alien stuff at all. This was just spiritual stuff. So I started reading books. And I'd read one book, and then I'd get a new understanding from reading this book, and then I would find out about another book, and then I would read that book, and then I would find another book, and I'd read that book, and I was reading a lot then. And I started realising after a while, when I looked back over it, it was a progression that I was going through with these books. And I never really realised this at the time, because I never had such a full understanding as I do now. But that was my guides that were doing that. They were lining all these books up for me, and they were guiding me on which ones to read. I can remember at one point, falling asleep once, because during this time I had a lot of free time, because I was at home, I wasn't working. I was at home, so I had a lot of free time. So I was starting to meditate regularly. I was starting to meditate like 3 times a day. And I can remember one day I fell asleep in the afternoon, and I can remember waking up. And right after I woke up, I could remember what I was doing in the astral. Right before I woke up, I can remember I was looking on Amazon on the computer, and it's like I was observing myself doing this, and I was looking on Amazon at what books to buy, and I was choosing. It was like I was watching myself doing it, but me that was watching myself was choosing which book I was going to get next. I can remember doing that. So for the first year that I woke up, so that would have been 2014. Okay, so for that whole year, I was doing a lot of spiritual work on myself. I wasn't really connecting with too many other people. I was just doing stuff on my own. So there was certain projects that I was going through that I was doing on my own. And these projects, what was I doing with these projects? One thing I learned to do was I got into lucid dreaming, and I learned how to lucid dream. So for a few months I was lucid dreaming. One of the things that happened when I was, one of the lucid dreams that I had, I was in this dream, and I'd just started getting interested in channeling then. It was something I was just starting to look into. Before this, I'd looked at channeling, and I was just like, this is channeling, that is crazy. And I was into, like I said, I was researching a lot of spiritual stuff and coming to a lot of new understandings. But I wasn't into channeling then, and to me it just seemed crazy. But I got into lucid dreaming, and I had this dream, and I was in this room, and it was like a white building. It was like a white building. This building inside, it was just like glowing white. And there was a woman that I was sitting down, and there was this woman there, and she was tall, and she was a blonde woman. She was very elegant, and I didn't realise at the time that she was a Pleiadian. And she was teaching me how to do something with my throat chakra. She was teaching me how to do something with the energy. It was like the energy was flowing from my throat chakra and going into like this bucket, and it was so weird. And she was teaching me how to do it. And yeah, she told me, yeah, one of your abilities is you can channel. And then this room that I was in, then other people started coming in this room, and there was other people that, because I was like they were like children, they were like youngsters, they weren't children, they were like sort of teenagers and things like that, and they were all coming in the room, and they all had abilities as well. Mm-hmm. And that's how I became lucid in that dream, because I thought to myself, this is like the X-Men or something. Like, it's like everybody's got all these abilities. And then I realised, because I associated it with a movie, I realised like, oh, this is a dream. And then that was it. I became lucid in the dream, and I left the room, and I went and did some other stuff.
So it was kind of like a premonition too.
Sort of, yeah. It's sort of like a premonition. I think what happened is, I think it was actually I think I was in the astral, and I'm not sure exactly where I was, but it was a Pleiadian that was doing that, and I think that's what it was for. Like you're saying, it was to sort of trigger me, to let me understand that that's something that I could do, because I wasn't really into. I was just starting to look into channeling then, and it wasn't channeling then wasn't. It was. It wasn't something that I ever thought I would do or was excited to even do. I wasn't interested in learning to do it at all.
Why did you think it was crazy? Do you think it had something to do with like societal fears surrounding channeling, or was it just because you just thought it was odd?
It was. It was the reason that I didn't get into channeling in the beginning when I first looked at it. I can remember the reason that I didn't do it is because I had a fear at that time. I had a fear that when you channel, how I can always remember thinking like, how do you know when you're channeling that you're not being told lies and it's not a negative entity or whatever that's coming?
The loss of control that you may be possessed.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot because this is the thing. There's a lot of beliefs that are put we're sort of that we take on during our life, and we take on a lot of them in school. A lot of them that we take on in school, and it's when people start waking up, it's going through that sort of reversal of like these beliefs that they've had all their life. Now, I'm not saying that these beliefs that they've had are bad things, because it's like I spoke about earlier. When you're asleep, you're putting yourself into a certain limitation there, but within that limitation, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned within that limitations that you would never get these lessons if you were awake. Yes. So to have schools do this just now, I don't think like, it's a terrible thing that schools do this. From a perspective, I can see that, yes, but it is not really. It has got a purpose. It has a purpose for being there. The schools are like that because they've got a purpose. Mm-hmm. This is all coming to a change now, and this purpose that they've got is pretty much coming to an end now, because humanity as a whole, we're moving out of that limitation, all of us together. Now, the stage we're at just now and where humanity is, it's like there's a split just now where there's some people that are awakened and there's some people that aren't. So that's why it's still here. But in the next 30 years, the schools will be very different to the way they are now. They'll be completely different, and people will come in with will have very different beliefs from when they're younger, growing up.
Now, when you say schools, are you referring to like religious schools or just schools of thought?
Oh, I'm just talking about like everyday schools that all your kids go to. This is what I'm speaking about. There's a lot of things that the schools teach kids that's not very, very good at all. One of the biggest things with children that the schools teach them, they don't allow them to be free thinkers. They don't allow children to think freely. There's a lot of things. If you go to a history class in school, there's a lot of things in history that just do not add up with what they're teaching you. And if you were to say to the teacher, well, what about these things then? What about these things? Because they don't tie in with what you're saying. The teacher would just tell you, oh, just ignore that stuff. Don't even look at that stuff. Just do what we're telling you. And that is very much basically what the teacher is saying there is, you don't believe what there is out there. Believe what you're being told to believe.
Yeah, don't trust your thoughts or your instincts. Just swallow what we tell you and write down these dates and memorize them.
Yes. So it very much is schools have a certain type of system where they teach individuals how to conform to the ideas of authority. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is something that everybody has to break out of, and that's part of the reason why I would have certain fears about channeling. As from ideas that have been given to me, not just by school but by society as well. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I've actually received those fears not in school. I mean, school, yes, I can understand like being taught like a certain framework, and then if you didn't act within that framework, that you have to be put in a different category. For the example, let's use the example of people who are hyper, and these kids in some parts of the U.S. are put in special classes with kids that are slow, because they just want to get them out of the normal classroom so they don't disrupt the class, but they have just another way that they need to learn that society has not conformed to themselves. But as far as being scared, I think that my experience is that these fears were put in to me by my family to a degree, and yes, like the religions as well.
Yes, that's right. And it's important. It's important here. I know I said this already, but it's important for people when they're looking back on things like this that have happened, because it's like Emmy's talking about, like there's so many things within society, that different things that teach you different values or beliefs that are not really in line with you opening up and being spiritual and stuff. It's important to recognise when you look at these things that these things are actually beneficial. You can't look back on them as being like these things were wrong. They were right for you at that time. But you're going through this lifetime just now is a transitional lifetime for everybody. This era is that's the era of transformation that we're going through just now. It's the generational transformation. Now, us as adults are all going to go through the transformation. Children, they won't go through it as much. The babies being born just now, they won't go through the transformation so much as we are, because we are going from the being completely asleep to being completely awake. So you have to recognise that these things, these beliefs that were given to you by society and everything, not that were given to you, that you took on, these were very appropriate for you at that time, because there was a lot of lessons for you to learn within those belief systems. But now you're coming to the transitional stage where now it's time to let go of them. That in itself, there's a huge lesson. There's a huge lesson in that, to being able to. There's a huge amount of growth being able to do that, to being able to transition yourself from completely asleep to completely awake. That is a great lesson, and it's a great growth for you, not just for you in this lifetime, but that is a great growth for you and your soul. Your soul will always have that growth within it, and it's a very, very unique experience. And there's many souls that want to come here and incarnate on Earth to experience that, because it is very unique. Even on other planets, even other planets that go through limitation, Earth is quite extreme where its limitations, where how cut off it is, and its beliefs. Its beliefs are it's got a lot of different beliefs on this planet, and when people are asleep, it is a huge contrast from being asleep to awake on this planet.
Oh yes, so, I totally agree with that.
So yeah, going back to the schools, they do play a big part in that, and obviously schools play a big part in giving the beliefs to society, because they are teaching the kids who are obviously going to become adults. This will all change, and what you'll find in the future is the schools are far more. What they'll do is they'll teach the children as dependent upon the children. See, it sounds obvious when you say it, but it doesn't make sense teaching all kids in the same way, because everybody's individual and everybody's different.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's schools just now that do this, that they actually teach each child depending upon what the child's interests are and what the child excels at. It's not so much what the child excels at, but what the child wants to explore. Because when you start allowing a child to explore what the child finds exciting, it's the same. It's no different for you from when you're an adult. When you're an adult and you're doing what's exciting for you, that's all you want to do. And it's you've got so much energy when you do that. It's easy to do it. It's an easy thing.
I totally agree with that.
And the reason that it's so easy is because before you incarnate into your life, you write out a contract, okay? Within this contract, you hear this getting talked about a lot, the contracts. Within this, you're basically making a plan. That's what the contract is. You're planning out this lifetime that I'm going to go and have. This is what I want to experience in this lifetime. I want to experience this. I want to experience that. I want to achieve these things. I want to explore these ideas and these beliefs and these themes and such. So, after you've made that contract and you go and live your life, the way that you actually live your life to the contract is you don't start tapping in and finding out what the contract is. You don't start doing meditations to find out what the contract is. You just follow your excitement, because your excitement is totally keyed into that. It's totally keyed into that contract that you made. The reason being, when you make the contract before you incarnate, you take on a certain type of personality that is the suitable personality for that contract. So when you go to live your life, you just follow your excitement. If you follow your excitement, you'll be on the correct life path that you had decided to set yourself. So this is why if you do that in schools, if you allow children to follow their excitement, they'll excel at what they do because that's what they're here to do. That's what they chose to come here to do. There's schools already that do this. There's Rudolf Steiner schools. If you're interested in this, you can look up Rudolf Steiner schools, and this is what they do in Rudolf Steiner schools. The students that come out of these schools, these students they are very successful. They're always very successful at what they do because they have always been pursuing their excitement, and they continue doing that in their adult life. See, we have a thing. This is one of the things that society teaches us just now. And the schools teach us just now. They teach you to plan everything out. Mm-hmm. That you should prepare for everything before you do it. And they teach you, and you're very much taught by society that it's not so much about what you're excited to do. It's about what is going to be the safest thing for you to do. That is what you're taught to do. People think now that if you're doing a job that you enjoy, you're lucky. And that in itself is something that will change a lot. It'll change up on the planet. We're moving into a new, how can I put it? We're moving into a new era where that'll no longer happen. It'll no longer be that you'll go to work just to make money. You'll go to work to do what you want to do. The whole of the planet, all the people on the planet, they've all made contracts, okay? Obviously, everybody's made a contract before they came into existence. Now, these contracts that you've made, you're not making a contract sitting in a room on your own making a contract. That's not really the idea how this works. When you make the contract, within your contract, you've got in your contract, okay, I'm going to do some work with, for example, in my contract, I've got in my contract where I'm going to do certain work with Emmy, because we've known each other for a while, and we help each other with things, and that's in our contracts. So we did that before we came into our incarnation. We both decided we'll do work with each other, and that's in our contract. There's other people that I've got in my contract, and there's other people Emmy's got in her contract as well. So what you can see here is everybody's actually tied in. It's like a big net. So everything actually fits in perfectly. It's like if you were to take everybody on the planet, you could think of it like a jigsaw. Mm-hmm. And everybody on the planet is a different piece of the jigsaw. And if you just follow your excitement and do what you contracted to do, you'll fit in perfectly with everybody else. And you'll make this complete, beautiful picture. It all works perfectly in harmony. It all works perfectly synchronistically. And this is why it's a good thing for you to follow your excitement. It's not something that's going to be out of balance. It's never going to be out of balance. You're going to come into balance when you do that. You'll come into balance with yourself because you'll be into the true resonance of what you came here to do, of what your personality was designed to do.
And then when you do that, you do your part in raising the vibration of the earth. And one thing that should be understood is how powerful that is. Even though you're one person, you can affect much just by following your excitement.
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely right. Yes, if you really want to help other people, following your excitement is a really good way to help others as well. I mean, it sounds contradictory, that, and this is another belief that society puts upon us, is that you should, if you look after if you think about yourself and you follow your own excitement, you'll actually help others because you'll put your vibration at a higher level, and that'll help other people. Just by being around other people, you'll help them. You'll start seeing different. But when you start doing that and you start raising your vibration up, you'll start seeing things differently. You'll start having different perspectives because you're at like a higher plane, so you can see more, and then you can start helping people with that. You'll also be in the right places. You'll be there connecting with the people you're supposed to be connecting with, and you'll be able to help them. So it's another belief that society teaches us, that you should never think about yourself first. That's selfish. You should never be doing that. If you do that, you're not a nice person. You're not a good person, and you're not helping others. It's actually the complete opposite.
Yes, exactly.
If everybody goes about trying to, I mean, I'm not saying don't help other people, but you shouldn't be You shouldn't be thinking that you can't help yourself, that you have to help other people before you help yourself. That doesn't work.
Exactly, because if you help yourself first and foremost, you'll be in the best conditions to help others.
Yes, exactly. That's very well put that. Yes. So, as you can see, there's a lot of things in society just now. I mean, the very fact that we're talking about this just now shows us. It shows you that we're in a transitional stage now. I mean, we were talking about this sort of stuff a few hundred years ago, even 100 years ago, we weren't talking about this. 50 years ago, as we're now in a stage where we're actually starting to change our beliefs. And everybody knows we're going through this ascension. There's an ascension process that humanity is going through. We're evolving into a higher vibration. All that we're really doing, I mean, it's like I can use all these words where it's like we're evolving and we're going through ascensions, but all that's really happening is humanity is changing their beliefs. They're changing their beliefs. That's all that's really taking place. We're changing our perspectives on everything, changing our beliefs. When we do that, everything changes. Everything in our society changes when we change our beliefs. We'll change everything. And it's not just the schools that will change, governments will change, everything will change. Because our society, the way that things are just now, it's pretty obvious to everybody that if we keep continuing on this way, we're never going to be able to survive as a species. We have to change our beliefs to do that, and that is what people like Emmy, that's what you're doing. You're here helping for people, giving them the option to look at things in a different way. It's basically lending a hand down to them to help them up so they can see from a higher perspective and they can see things differently. And it helps a lot by doing this. People think that you have to see really huge effects, but it doesn't work that way. Just by you radiating these messages out, it helps a lot. It makes a huge difference. It really does.
Yeah, I totally agree. And another thing I wanted to just touch on real quick is the thought that we are instilled, or the thought processes that are instilled in us, which says that, which has you thinking, oh, I'm only one person. How can I possibly affect the world? But if you see yourself as an infinite being with infinite powers and possibilities, that you are created to be miraculous creation of God, and you yourself are the creator as well, you're going to see how impactful you can actually be.
Yes.
Just by being. And imagine what happens when you're doing, and then following what Neil calls as following your excitement.
Yes. I mean, when you it goes back to what I was just speaking about. It's like when you start to look at yourself, it's a big thing that a lot of people do, is they look outside of themselves. So if there's a problem, if there's something's making them feel angry or annoyed or some negative way in their life, a lot of people, they look outside of themselves and they try to stop that thing from happening. They try to change it from happening. Now, sometimes that it can be done that way, but the vast majority of the time, what you really need to do is you really need to look at yourself and ask yourself, why am I getting angry about this? What is it about that is making me angry? It's something to do with your belief. It's got to do with your belief that you have. Your beliefs generate fear. There's beliefs you have that generate fear. So when you change the belief, it'll eliminate the fear that you've got. Anytime you feel angry or any negative feeling, it all goes back to fear. It always goes back to fear. So when you can find out what the belief is that's generating that fear, and you can take that belief and change your perspective, change that belief, you'll no longer feel that negative way anymore. So yeah, it's coming back to there's a lot of when you change your reality, you have to change what's inside to change what's outside, because it's all created by you.
Yeah, so, like your reality is basically your thoughts being mirrored back to you. Is that correct?
Yes, very much so. Yes, because your belief systems make up everything. Your beliefs make up everything. It's like, let me put it like this: there's some people go into some people would go into a roller coaster ride, and they would really enjoy that roller coaster ride. There's some people who would go on that roller coaster ride and they would hate it. It would be like the worst thing they had ever done.
Oh yeah.
The roller coaster ride itself, it's neither positive or negative. It's just the ride is neutral. It's the person who goes on the ride. It's them that give it the positive or neutral value.
Yeah,
and this is very much so for
expectations.
all things. Yes, it's perspective. It's the individual who paints it. It's the individual who labels it positive or negative. If everybody saw, if it wasn't that way, everybody would be exactly the same on the planet. We would all be like robots. There'd be no disagreements ever.
Yes, that's true.
So your whole reality is painted by your beliefs, by your perspective. The way that you believe things to be, your beliefs and things are what label them positive or negative.
There's even things that we do that we definitely help create unconsciously. You know, for example, with the words we say, and we don't realize how much words mean, and
Yes.
how much they shape our reality. Just by, I mean, your words are kind of, they're commands.
Yes, very much so. Yes,
You're manifesting, especially when you say "I am," followed by something. I am wonderful.
Yes.
I am kind. I am beautiful. I am rich. I am, you are commanding that. Now, when you say, I'm not going to be in a relationship because I am afraid that, I'm not going to
Yes.
get on that ride because I fear that, you are manifesting that fear.
Yes. When you say "I am," it's you're taking it back to yourself. You're taking the power back to yourself. You're claiming it as yours because everything is you. Everything and you're a part of creation. You're a part of everything. So when you say "I am," it's taking it back to you. It's forming that connection between you and everything else. You're taking the power back to yourself. It's not something outside of yourself that's doing this. It's you that's doing this. So. Yes, it's a very powerful phrase, "I am." Now, words are very, very powerful, and this is something that is used a lot in society as well. So one of the things that you'll see, a good way to see this, a good example of how words can be used very powerfully, is if you go and switch on the news. Now, I don't watch the news primarily because of this reason. But if you switch on a news channel, and you don't really, if you can switch it on, but don't really listen to what they're actually talking about, just listen to the words that are being used. And you'll notice there's certain words that are constantly repeated over and over. The words like terror, attack, control. Yes, all these words are constantly said over and over because what is happening, these words, they are subliminally being put into your consciousness, and it makes you feel negative. It makes you feel you take these on. So the news is played. If you look at most channels, they'll like channels on the TV. They'll play the news usually 3 times a day at least, in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. And that's what they're doing. They have this playing all the time and have these words going to you all the time because these words they keep you in a low vibration because obviously the government want to keep you in a low vibration because a lot of what the government do is about control.
Yeah.
So
and all of those words are rooted in fear, so it's keeping you at a definitely fear-based vibration.
Yes, absolutely. So they're doing it for a negative. That's right. They're doing this for a negative reason. But you can also use words for a positive reason as well. The same idea. If people are talking about love a lot, if you hear people talking about love and about sharing and about kindness and joy and these words, if you hear these repetitively in your life every day, you'll actually start feeling good. Even if you were to walk about and you just had a recording and just these words playing over and over and over, if you were to walk about, they would make you feel good. Now, I'm not saying you'll listen to them constantly, but if you were to hear these words repetitively each day, you would start feeling better because your belief in these words mean something to you. They mean very positive things. So when you hear them, your belief that they're positive things. That actually, it's like I was saying, your beliefs create everything. So when you're hearing these positive things, these things you've labelled positive, when they're coming to you all the time, it makes you feel good after a while.
And that'll rub off on other people, and things will just generally be positive, and people will want to do positive things for each other. But since we have negativity all the time, what is like, the result of that? Negative actions, which we're seeing a lot of today.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, so we'll see this a lot we'll see this a lot in the next 20, 30 years. There'll be a lot, you'll hear these words much more. The governments just now, they'll transform as well. When humanity transforms, they'll transform with us.
Yeah.
See, there's a belief about government when a lot of people talk about the ascension. There's a big belief about government, that the government has to fall and then we're going to create a new government. It's not really what's going to happen, because the government will just be transformed into positive. There'll be certain individuals within government who'll change their perspective with the rest of humanity, and they'll become positive. They'll start to want to do positive things, and this is what will happen. And instead we'll have news channels that are sending out the messages they're sending out just now. We'll have the news channels sending out positive words, and this will create, like Amy's saying, this will create a huge change. This will create, the power that has is incredible. The power that has will be incredible. We will go on such an accelerated path towards positivity, and the planet will transform in incredible ways, ways that have never ever been seen before. It will be incredible. There is things that happen during the ascension that will be things that have never ever been seen on the planet before. Never. There is huge. I've seen these festivals that happen. And there are these festivals, and they are huge festivals that take place. And these are festivals just to celebrate us awakening, humanity awakening. There's no people drinking or taking drugs or anything at them. They're just celebrating the joy of existing, the joy of life, and the joy of the humanity connecting with all of that. There is huge amounts of aid. I've seen this before in visions. There's huge amount of aid that gets given to Africa, and they have huge festivals there. There's huge amount of aid that's flown in there. The whole planet will completely change to the exact opposite of what is just now. There will be, people will care for each other like it's never ever been seen before. It will be, the things that will happen will be phenomenal.
So what do you think will happen for us, or what do you intuit will happen to us or for us in the near term? Because there's a lot of speculation on either side of what might happen, but I figure it's just really what you want to put your focus on. I'm focusing on the positive. I think there's a lot of, ascension activity going on, awakening activity going on, but then there's the other side saying, oh, some stuff is going to go down, watch out. What do you think?
I mean, there's certain things that will, it depends on what, it's like you're saying, it depends on what you focus on. I mean, you can live your life and you can focus on negative things in your life. It's never going to make you happy. Or you can live your life and focus on the positive things that are going to happen, and obviously it's going to make you feel good. I'm not saying to be naive to the negative things, but the planet is moving. It is moving into a positive vibration. Right now, the way the planet is, if you were to look at the planet as a whole, I mean, we're not the most positive of species of things that we do. There's a lot of people generally are positive, but a lot of people are in fear. A lot of the general public, a lot of them are fear-based, and that, I know a lot of that's because of the way that they've been brought up. But this will all change. It's like I spoke about before. Everything will change when people start changing their beliefs. Everything will start to change. It will move into a much more positive society. People will be far more positive with one another and far, far more caring with one another. The systems on the planet will change, but in order for them to change, sometimes there has to be some how can I put it, some collapse. Yeah. things have to fall before they can be rebuilt to being done differently. And it's just a part of the renewal process. It's like anything else. When things are renewed, sometimes you have to strip things back to create new more positive things. It's exactly the way things happen in nature. We are part of nature, and even though all this negative stuff that's going on our planet, you would say that's not natural, all these things to happen. But it's also it's also a part of nature when you look at it. It's still nature going through a process of dying off and rebirth. That's basically what's happening. We're letting go of our old beliefs and our old ways, and there's a renewal coming, a much more positive renewal. So it's just a cycle that we're going through as a species. We're going through an evolutionary cycle where we are moving into a newer vibration, and with that newer vibration there comes new beliefs.
And another thing also, yes, there's some people who are just like really feeding into like the negative things about the financial collapse and stuff like that. And it's really amazing because they're just like, following their updates and stuff like that. And I imagine they're going to be the first ones who are going to be like, didn't I tell you the financial system has collapsed? But then what? Like, what makes you happy about the result of that? That aside, I think that whatever happens, it's because it needed to happen. And a lot of us, especially in the U.S., are not awake that things are not working. And sometimes it takes things to be rustled up a little bit to take a look at that and say, oh, wow, things weren't working as great as I guess they could have been. What can I do to make things better for us? Things like that.
Yes, one thing that a lot of people do is a lot of people they don't look at the big picture. They look at very closely at things that are going on. They look at this or they look at that and they say, oh, look, this isn't working or that's not working. When you look at it, that's not working and that's not working. A lot of the time when you stand back and you look at the big picture, you actually see, oh, that's why that's happening, because it's tying in with that, or that's causing that to happen and that's causing this to happen. It's something that you see very often that people do. So yes, that's some advice I'd give to people is when there's things that you can see is happening or that's going on, try and take a step back and look at the big picture and see how is that affecting everything on the whole scale. A lot of people can't see that we're going through this change, this big change. There's a lot of people that can't see it just now, but it'll be far more prominent in the next five years. There'll be it'll be much more obvious. A lot more things will be coming out in the news and in the media that people will see, and it'll be much more into the mainstream, a lot of the information about aliens, and not just with aliens, but with spirituality as well, how to start taking care of yourself more, and new technologies that will be coming in as well. So,
what kind of technologies do you think will be coming in?
I mean, I know there's a lot of technologies that the government already have that they don't release, that they use for their military, their secret military. I don't know how long it's going to be for them to come in. The ones that I think that are going to be like really, really exciting to come in are going to be the medical ones, when they have these medical technologies coming in. Because from what I understand is the way that we do it just now, we do surgery and things like that. We do these in a very third-dimensional way, a very physical way. We'll start moving into a way where we're not doing it in such a physical way anymore. We'll be using things like they'll use sound and light and vibration. Instead of sewing up a wound, they'll use sound and light and vibration to do that, and it'll seal it up. So it's far, far, far easier, and it's far more efficient as well. But that's just that. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There is so many technologies that they have that are extremely advanced, and these will be for me, these will be very exciting. There'll also be other technologies that are more to do with like spirituality. So you'll have, just now when people are cleaning their chakras, they'll do it through meditation and things like that. they'll have machines that will be able to do that as well. If people want to use them, they don't have to use them, but there'll be certain machines that can do that as well. There'll be certain machines that can give them energetic cleansing and things like this. So these will be very beneficial as well.
What kind of machines do you think that we have at our disposal right now, or just devices in general?
Devices for spirituality, do you mean?
Yeah, devices to enhance your spirituality, or maybe clean the magnetic field around you, because sometimes there's a lot of negative frequencies emitting around us.
Yeah, I mean, what I do, I don't like that at all, what you're talking about with the EMF rays and the cell phone towers and things like this. I don't like that. What I use to protect myself against that is I use crystals. I think crystals are very, very good for that. There's certain crystals that absorb EMF energy, and yeah, that's what I like using for that. It's something that will be used far more in the future as crystals. We'll start using them. Crystals right now, we don't really know how to use crystals right now. I mean, people use them for spirituality, but in the coming future, they'll be used very, very much so for technology, absolutely. The crystals can do some really incredible things that the government know about this, but this will come into the mainstream soon.
Yeah, the government knows about them, but they try to, hush them down. Like even I don't know if you're familiar with orgone energy. I mean, the inventor of that, William Reich, I think he died in the loony bin, and he created all of these wonderful technologies, and they just shut him down, and I think he stole his patents and things like that. But he did so much in that field, and even now these are things that you can make yourselves, but I think that there's some people getting detained detained, and who are making these devices and just kind of putting them around cell phone towers.
Yeah.
There's one on YouTube who got arrested for terrorism somewhere in the United States for gifting cell phone towers, he called them, because he was gifting them with the orgone energy.
Yeah, these orgonite devices, I've looked into them before, and it's something that I'm feeling drawn to start using yet. But yeah, I've heard a lot of very good results from them.
They're easy to make.
Yeah, it's very easy to make, and yes, I've heard they're very effective. So, the one thing that I'm holding back on, the only reason I've not made mine yet is because I'm trying to find out what the perfect crystal is to use for them, and I've still not quite got that information yet. But regarding what you were saying about the government, yeah, they'll always do that just now, because that's the role that the government play. The government have been put in place humanity have went through a huge learning process where we went into a lot of darkness. Our past is very dark, very negative, done a lot of very, very negative things. That was okay to do that because there was a lot of learning experience in that. Mm-hmm. But now, and that's what the government is there for. They're there to keep people, the people who want to stay in that, to keep them in that learning, and that learning, because there's still lessons for them to learn. So that's that's the role that the government really play. But so they'll always try and control. The government are very much about control and how to keep. How to stop people from waking up. But that is one of the great things. It's such an incredible thing, because you learn how to become strong. It takes a very strong individual to break out of that, to break out of that and become positive and awaken. It takes very powerful individuals to do that.
Break out of the matrix.
Yes. So it's a great thing. It's a great challenge, because without the challenge, you don't have growth.
Exactly.
I mean, I know it sounds obvious but that's what is happening to humanity. We've put ourselves through this great challenge. Let's go down into this darkness for a long, 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 long time, and let's see if we'll break out of it. Let's see let's see if we've got the strength to break out of it. And we're definitely on track to doing that. It is not going to go the other way. Definitely on this timeline, we are going to break out of that for sure.
Isn't that amazing, though? isn't that amazing, especially these days when we have spiritual communities where we're talking about aliens, and sometimes the aliens will just remind us about how fear-based and, you know, how effed up things are over here. And you'll agree to a degree, but then it's like, you know what? We're like spiritual gangsters, you know, who volunteers to forget everything, like all of their lives, that their spirit, that they're alone in this planet, and try to remember it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you actually look at it, when people look back on this, I mean, you can even look at it now and you can see it. Like, it's incredible how people even wake up. The amount of, how clever the government are. I mean, how smart they are at the amount of tactics they use.
Yeah, how intricately laid the plan is.
Yes, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's testament to humanity, humans. They had to make it so intricate and it's so well planned out. The way that they've got the whole system, they had to make it like that because we are so powerful. Humans are so powerful that it's easy for us to awaken. So we had to create a great system of control to stop ourselves from breaking out, because there was lessons that we had to learn in that.
Yeah.
And even though we put this amazing system into place, there still comes a point when people are ready, they'll still break out of it. And that is an incredible thing. It shows you how powerful humanity really are, how powerful we are as beings. It is a very difficult thing to do. I know a lot of the species that are coming to Earth and communicating with us, a lot of them look at us with like high respect for us coming and doing this. It's a very, very, very challenging thing to do, and we're doing it just now. It'll be seen this will be recognised far easier in like 30, 40 years. People will look at this like, this is incredible. I mean, when you see millions of people waking up, the masses really waking up, then it'll really hit home for people like what this is really all about. It'll be incredible. It will be phenomenal. Nothing ever like this will have ever been seen. This huge migration of humanity from one set of belief systems into a new set. It's like a mass migration of minds is basically what is going to take place. It's in the process taking place.
Yeah, and it's truly amazing. Just what's been going on for the last 3 or 4 years, because and then here another thing I just learned is that the end of the Mayan calendar was not like the end of the world. It was the end of a paradigm and the mark of a new paradigm, the mark of basically that was the day that we're supposed to start awakening.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And as a result, many have begun awakening at that time, and then they're at a point now that they've progressed, or they've accessed much knowledge, be it knowledge about the negative, knowledge about the positive, becoming more spiritual, or just kind of neutral and just seeing everything and how it one hand washes the other, and you need the light or the dark to know you as light, and all of these different understandings. It's just amazing that I can meet other people who have the same thought processes about these things, and I'm not alone.
Yes. Yeah, it's really incredible when you see that as well. When you see how people like myself and you, how we had written into our contract that we were going to meet up and we were going to do work together. And then when you actually meet people like that and you start working with them and you realise, we've got a contract, and you can feel the soul connection that you've got. Yeah. When you look at like, how did we just stumble across each other and how do these groups come together? That is an incredible thing. That is really incredible. All the people on this planet, how certain soul groups of people all come together and they start working together, and that is an incredible thing.
And how much that we teach each other.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Because what I've learned just within the last 6 months, let alone the last like month is just like amazing, I think.
Yes, yes. There's certain people, especially like soul groups, or certain people when you connect with them, they'll create like they create like momentum in your life where
Yeah.
you start moving faster and things like that. And it's because you have contracted to do the work together, and you have contracted to help each other. That's why it's very important. It's going back again to following your excitement. That's how you find these people. You keep following your excitement, and it takes you to them.
I'm
So
glad
it's
you
very
brought
important.
it back to that point,
Yeah,
because
it's,
this has all been following my excitement, I believe. And
yeah.
you're definitely helping me create that even more, Neil.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot. This is one thing that you don't realize so much, Emmy. But there's actually a lot that you do for me that you actually help me with. But you're unaware that you actually do it. You've actually, there's certain things that you've done, and it's actually made me go in certain directions and learn certain things. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have learned how to do the hypnosis, and that was because of you.
Oh,
And that was something that we had agreed that it would be done, that way, that you would help me with that. And there's certain other things that you've done as well that you've been unaware of. And the reason that you're unaware of it is because you're just following your excitement. You're just doing what you feel like doing.
yeah.
And that's why it's so important. See, this is what I was talking about before. You don't have to plan things out. Things don't have to be structured and planned out. You can plan things to a certain extent, but the problem is when you're planning things out, what you're doing, when you follow your excitement, you're in your heart space. You're in your heart and you're following your heart. Your heart also has a consciousness. It can also think. It also has a capacity to think. So when you go into your heart, you're following that. It totally bypasses all the beliefs, your heart. It doesn't have the beliefs. When you start thinking things through and planning things through, you're no longer in your heart, you're going up to your head. And then you're into your belief systems where you're into your fears, and maybe this wouldn't work like that and that and that and that. So what you usually find with people, what usually happens with most people is they'll get this feeling, they'll get like, oh, I really want to go and do such and such. That is what I really feel like doing. I'm excited to go and do that. And then they're like, right, okay. And then they go up to their head and they're like, oh, I've not got enough money to do that actually. And maybe if I was to do that, this thing would happen, and I'm not sure if I would even be able to have the skills to be able to do that thing. And then, and that's them in their head, and all their fears coming out, and then they don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important just to do it. I know it's a difficult thing to do that because people feel like it's a gamble. They feel like they're taking a gamble, and they've been taught all their life, don't always go with a safe bet with your life. Don't gamble.
Oh,
Because things, you know what I mean? So most people then what they'll do is they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do it. I'll just wait until the time's right, or the time that they think is right, the safe time comes, and then I'll do it then. So they put it in the back burner, and then sometimes it doesn't happen. And to get to that place that you've already contracted before you came in, before you were incarnated, to get to that place, you have to take a huge detour, which takes much longer for you to get there than if you were just to follow your heart.
Yes, exactly. And then sometimes you just got a lot of people like just worry or just they overthink how are they going to, I guess, become more spiritual or get to a point where they're more at ease or happy and stuff. And, you know, I just think you just have to kind of let go. You have to let go of everything and put it to the side and just, like you said, follow your happiness, follow your excitement. Or like I tell my cousin who's becoming a little more spiritual now from a big religious background, you know, you just got to let go, enjoy yourself. I said, let go and let God.
Yeah, but excitement is like it is an incredible energy, excitement. And once you start getting for me anyway, excitement is like addictive for me. So once you start tapping into your excitement and following it, and you start seeing things actually do work out when you do that, you really do get addicted to it. You become like, it's like that's just what you don't have the fear anymore, and it's just the feeling. You're just going for the feeling, and you're riding on this excitement, and it really does. It helps a lot. It takes you to all the right places. But yeah, you're tapping it when you're doing that as well. It's like you're saying, as you're becoming more in balance, you could say. You're coming more in balance with yourself. So when you come into more balance with yourself, you're actually expanding out, because it's like I was talking about before. When you start following your excitement, it's like you're a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. So when you make yourself that perfect shape by following your excitement, you're allowing yourself to be that perfect shape and to fit in. When you fit in with all the rest, you become the whole picture. You're also that one piece, but you're also fitted into the whole picture. So you expand out and you become, the whole picture is God, basically. Everybody's connected.
Yes.
And everybody is a piece of God. So when you fit that piece in, you're becoming that connection in God. You're feeling yourself as that expansion, and it allows you to connect with other people very easily.
That's amazing. Okay, Neil, I have to thank you very much for being here. We only have a couple of minutes left, and I wish we had a couple of more hours left. But before we leave, could you please let us know, like, any more thoughts you'd like to share, and also where we can find you?
Okay, so as far as thoughts go, yeah, just for people just to embrace who they really are, and just to try not to, just to allow yourself to follow your heart and listen to your heart and do what your heart is telling you to do. Even though things may seem like that's not the right thing to do, just allow yourself to be there. And the more that you start doing this, and the more you start following your heart, the more confidence you'll get, because you'll see that it starts leading you to the right place, and you'll see the synchronicity starting to come, and you'll see the positivity start to develop into your life. As you're feeling this positivity and you're seeing it building and building, you'll end up just riding on that all the time. You'll end up trusting in yourself much more. You'll end up trusting in your heart much more. It's very, very important, because most people have been taught not to use the heart. Follow what your heart says, and you'll always take you to the right places. So, as far as services go, there's a few different services that I do. So, I can do healing. Now, within the healing, there's different things that I can do. I can work on your chakras, and I can remove any implants that you have. I can do energetic clearance. All these types of things I can do with my healing. So I also do channeling as well. So I can do channeling in two different ways. I can do conscious channeling, where I'm just sitting and the beings are outside of me, and they'll talk to me and I'll tell you what it is. Or I can have them come completely in me and they'll just speak straight through me. I can channel all different types of beings, so that's another service that I do. I also do hypnosis services as well. So it ranges between 1 or 2 hours, the hypnosis services. Emmy's actually done this before, so there's a huge array of things you can do. Hypnosis, you can do implant removals, and healing can also be included in the hypnosis. There's a huge amount of things, past lives, connecting with your guides, looking at any memories that have been erased, looking at any abductions you've had. The list is endless when it comes to the past life stuff. So that's another service that I do. Okay, so I've got, if you do want to book any sessions, or you just want to look at like the stuff that I do, I have a YouTube account. Now, all my accounts can be accessed through my website, and my website is www.neil333.com. So that's Neil, Neil, and it's the number 333.com. So you can find all my services on there. You can find my YouTube through that as well. You can find my Facebook links and everything through that as well. If you do want to get in touch with me for any reason, my contact email is neil@neil333.com. So you can send me a message there.
Thank you, Neil. And I do want to tell the listeners that I have, as he said, partaken in his services, and they are very beneficial. I think I've had the gamut, anything from energy healing, introduction to my guides, helping me clear past life blockages, and a couple of regressions that you could actually find on his website. So thank you, Neil. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you very much, Emmy. I appreciate that a lot. I really do. So thank you very much and much love.
Thank you. Much love, and much love to you listeners of Off the Deep End. Thank you for listening to us on sportsovertime.com. Tune in for next week's show when we're going to have Harris Mamadou on Tuesday. And we are going to have Jim Charles from hookalo.org on Friday. And that will be on 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we got Ivan